Next, we'll have the blueprint update. Dr. Sampson.
Good evening, President White, Dr. Townsell, members of the Board of Education. I'm Joe Sampson III, coordinator of Maryland Lee's Grant and Blueprint for Maryland's Future. And today I'll give a brief update on where we are with regard to our implementation plan and feedback. An update on our career advisor status, remaining FY24 timeline and next steps. So we received, and happy to report that we got feedback on our initial submission from the AIB, which we'll address in our next submission due in July. The specific clarification asked by MSDE and the AIB centered on stakeholder engagement. Specifically, they wanted us to provide a specific adaptation of curriculum and resources for specific student groups. They wanted us to talk about be more specific in what that looks like. And then additional details on how progress monitoring of data is specifically used to support those students. So those were just the two pieces of clarification that they asked for. Regarding our career advisor status, happy to report that we met our goal of having 6th and 9th graders receive individualized career counseling this year. The goal was 100%, but technically we didn't get to 100. We fell at about 99%, and that was due to some students being chronically absent and things of that nature. So we were between 30 and 60% for other grade levels, and that varies by school. We recently met to think through what our next steps are going to be in determining how to scale the work to ensure that next year we're at least 90%, 98% across the district in all grades. So what we have to look forward to for the rest of this year, due by July 1st, there are a couple of things that are due to the AIB. As indicated on this slide, our pre-K through 12th grade comprehensive literacy plan submission is due by the 28th of June. The 10% salary increase attestation, that refers to the period between July 1st, 2019 and June 30th, 2024. In that, teachers in the county received a 10% salary increase above the negotiated schedule of salary increases between those dates. And this attestation is due on July 1st. For the career ladder, our planned documents are due to the AIB by July 1st, and that should include a detailed summary of what was negotiated and agreed upon for levels 1 through 3 of the career ladder, and as well as the resulting scale showing how teachers are placed and move through levels 1 through 3. So it does not include level 4. That is not a requirement for this year. So our next steps involve monitoring and expanding the process for teachers to pursue national board certification. And the phase 2 TA, which is technical assistance, strategic partnership. And so what we've done is we were able to put our application live on our applicant tracking software for teachers who are interested in the national board certification process for next year. And we did that so that we can have early access to the teachers and be able to provide information over the summer and plan our support a lot sooner than the fall. So happy to report that the number of initial candidates as of Friday of last week, we had 26 initial applicants. So that's 26 new teachers looking to pursue NBC. And as far as the phase 2 strategic partnership, we're going to continue working with our strategic facilitator on progressing toward our goals. And the plan is to conduct school visits in the fall to meet with principals, teachers, and students that will also address this stakeholder engagement feedback that the AIB gave us, to talk about plans that schools are doing in order to meet Blueprint requirements and some innovative things that might be happening. And what I would like to do lastly is just publicly thank all of our writing teams, all of the folks who have contributed over the last 2 years with our Blueprint implementation, and personally thank Dr. Johnson and Mr. Navarro for helping the process and for your leadership throughout the process over the last couple of years, along with our steering committee and our Calvert County Blueprint Committee working in partnership through this process. So I just want to thank those folks. Any questions?
I have a couple questions. So in your communications with other school boards or school systems, has anyone shared a detailed financial analysis in regards to their specific school system about what the impact is going to be for implementation of the Blueprint?
No one has given a detailed.
Has anybody mentioned? I know St. Mary's County has done it, and I think Ms. Goshorn, she's a member of the Blueprint Committee, sent a message back in January urging us to do that. I think there were a number of people on that. I'm not sure if you were on that, so I'm sorry. So if you didn't get that, my apologies. But I asked that question because when you talk about like national board certification and things like that, and we know that those teachers only have to be in the classroom 60% of the time, and just kind of looking through the lens of what it's going to take to continue to fully fund our school system, and then also the Blueprint, I think it's safe to say we should all have some serious concerns about how that's going to happen, because I don't know how a teacher could be in the classroom only 60% of the time and we'd be able to hire the amount of staff that would be needed to support, all those classrooms. Has there been any conversation about doing a detailed financial analysis here in this school system?
So there's been discussion about it, and I know that Mr. Johnson actually was a presenter at one of our Calvert County Blueprint Committee meetings, and presented some information to that group. As far as other districts sharing detailed information about what they're planning, that hasn't happened in our coordinator meetings, but that is something that our team can get together and discuss in terms of how we would communicate that in the future.
I think it would be really important for us to begin to do that, especially in light of all of the things budget related, and just knowing what, the speculation about what a heavy lift the Blueprint will be. And then maybe in some cases not really knowing. So I think it would really be helpful for us to be able to make some decisions down the road if we had a better picture and understanding of what that cost really was going to be. So thank you. Yes.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Thank you.
To get this information with respect to the cost, and had the opportunity to meet with the CFO of St. Mary's County at a May retreat in April. And I'm just saying this as a matter of fact. They have a full-time Blueprint staff accountant. That's this employee's full-time duties and responsibilities is to work on the Blueprint and the costs. And it is definitely paying off in terms of finding the actual cost, but that's how they're able to do that.
Well, and I also think that to have that, it would leverage the local school board and to be able to go and speak at the state level about what will work, what won't work, because at some point, all the buckets are going to be empty. Thank you.
I had two questions. It looks like we're supposed to be at 98% across the district. Career advisor goal, the goal?
That's just the goal, yes.
Right. So do we know what the barriers are that are stopping us from exceeding the 30 to 60% now that we have now?
I don't know that there will be barriers next year. I know that this year, because of the late start, with the career advising program. And there being one individual trying to meet with every student in the building, that created that issue. And so being able to start the school year off next year, ninth graders already having had that, then you're really only having to worry about the rest of the students in the building. And I think that should be easily accomplished.
That makes sense, thank you. Also, for the stakeholder engagement, specific adaptation of curriculum resources for specific student groups. Is that our special education population?
It's related to Pillar 4 in general. So Pillar 4 being more resources for students to be successful. We're talking about looking at our curriculum and what resources we're providing, whether that be students with special needs, whether that be English language learners, or what have you. So there are several student groups that we're looking at when we're talking about closing achievement gaps or improving academic performance overall. So that's really what they're looking at when they ask us for those specifics.
Thank you.
Do you know, now that we've signed our negotiated agreements, do you know how Calvert stands in relation to the general other, average district as far as meeting the 10%, we know we got that, the 10% salary increase in the career ladder?
I do know that at a presentation at the Maryland State Department of Education, one of their meetings, it was remarked by the MSE President Cheryl Bose that there were some school systems that are not moving along with negotiations of successfully completing negotiations with their career ladder, but I don't have a list of which ones have successfully finished. I know at a meeting, a Maryland Negotiation Service meeting, I believe in April, only a couple school systems had successfully concluded their career ladder negotiations, and we did ours in May, so.
So are we on track to have everything in by July 1st? That's required?
Yes, we are.
Okay. And I know that you have communication with the commissioners on this also, so they're up to speed.
Yes, the county administrator is on our Calvert County Blueprint Committee. So when it comes to timelines, he's part of our steering committee. So he is in on those meetings and discussions with regard to our implementation status. And that's communicated to the team as well.
Okay, and I want to say thank you for taking this. This is something that came about, and it's like building an airplane in mid-flight. So thank you for jumping in and what you've been doing with this. Anyone else?
May I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
For the adaptation of curriculum and resources for specific student groups, I know you mentioned having work groups. Were there any other floated ideas so far, any ideas for engaging students in that process?
Not specifically, but we are open to suggestions when it comes to that, because we know that not all forms of communication or attempts to engage stakeholders has been successful. So any feedback or suggestions are definitely welcomed.
Thank you. I'd love to reach out after the meeting.
Any other discussion or questions?
No, I just have to say thank you as well. It was, you're forging new territory, and a lot of it, so many questions that were still unanswered at the state level, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.